But again, I just do this to try and humanize people because everyone's got a story and we're all different. Everyone's story is different, man. So I start at people's origin. Charlie, tell me about yourself. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Good Samaritan Hospital in Puyallup, Washington. I was raised in Spanaway.
Nice.
Boring place to be, really. I mean, there's no pulse there.
Yeah.
When I came out to Seattle and I saw Wallingford for the first time, that was like New York to me. A city that never sleeps. And that's what I liked about it.
Nice.
That's why I like it here.
Yeah. Nice.
Everyone's always doing something. It's not quiet. It's not all dead like that, like during the pandemic. I mean, it's doable. It's livable. It gives me something to process in my mind when I'm feeling lost or I have nowhere else to go. I feel like I'm being cornered by life's crap in general. As people being up and moving about keeps me thinking, keeps me moving. Definitely stopped me from giving up.
Well, tell me about your home life. Who raised you?
Well, my home life. That one's kind of awkward. My grandparents raised me. They were a couple of racist idiots from World War II era. My dad owned a music store in Puyallup called Budget Tapes and Records. He bought it off a Japanese guy named Floyd Kubiyama. And he grew up with the 80s metal era, so I was raised into that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a crappy racist background. I didn't like any of it, but when I got into the real world on my own, I found that of all the colors and all the origins in the world, that's actually what taught me more than anything.
Culture.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, how come your parents didn't raise you?
Well, my dad always had to work.
Gotcha.
My grandparents put him up against that, otherwise they would let me go to a foster home. My mom was very psychotic and very crazy. And so she wasn't mentally stable, and I didn't choose to be with her when I was a child. I was given that right to speak up, and I told the courts I did not want to be around her.
Oh, it
She
went
was
all
a
the way to
very
court?
bad person.
All
Oh
the
yeah.
way to court?
She was a really lousy person.
Sorry to hear.
I didn't want to be around her. I didn't want to be like her. I didn't want to be like my sister. I didn't want to be like any of that.
Yeah.
And when I got to see what a lot of them were like years ago, I was more than thankful that I didn't have to be like them. And that I'm glad I chose the path I did. Even though it had kind of a cost, raised around a bunch of racist idiots, but I didn't turn out like them, so that is another thing I'm thankful for.
Yeah, you brought that up a couple times, the racism.
Yeah.
So let's hang out there a little bit. Like, how did you, I mean, because you're growing up and, you know, yeah, I guess we all hear this racism and you're like, something in you goes, but it's also your grandparents. So you're like, how do you, it's a little confusing when relatives or family members are racist and you're like, that doesn't feel okay.
It's like a repressed memory syndrome. When somebody acts racist towards another person, and they act on it accordingly, it takes me back to a scenario or situation where some things happened, but then I remember that first birthday party I ever gone to was because of a black friend I had in school. So hallelujah to that one, we had fun. I mean, everything that's changed in my life, that's kept me going, that's given me an opportunity to get out of a bad situation, get into a better one, was all because of a person of color. It was never the same origin I came from. And so I knew from the get-go that my grandparents were wrong and the path I was on was the wrong way to be.
Gotcha.
And so anytime there was an origin of color involved, I chose that. And I went with that direction to see what it would do or where it would take me.
And you said you had a sister. You
Yes.
have a sister. Was she there with your grandparents?
No.
Just you?
No, she became the big-time drug dealer in Tacoma
Oh, gotcha.
that everybody knows.
Middle school, high school, what was going on in that
Never
age?
fit into anything, really. I was always the outcast, always made fun of, always bullied. And so when I got out of high school, I got to see a lot of these people that were bullies, and I realized that now I'm physically bigger than you. It kind of sucks for you now, doesn't it? But I never took the path that they gave me,
Yeah.
even though sometimes I felt like I should have.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to be like that.
Yeah. It's never satisfying. And then after high school, where does life take you? In those, I don't know.
Well, it was an unsuccessful job search, one after another. But I became homeless out there, came to Seattle. 3 weeks into Seattle, I got a job. And that was the first time I ever actually got to live life when I started working up here in Seattle.
Gotcha.
It was one job after another. I didn't go very long without a job either in between. It just kept me going, and I loved it, and I still do. Right now I'm in the process of trying to get my life back together, get back on my feet, but there's a lot of things I don't understand, a lot of things I don't know, and it sucks because I feel like it's the first time in my life I don't feel like I know what to do now. Like I'm kind of at a standstill or at a dead end.
Tell me more about that. There's a lot of things you don't understand. Like, what do you mean by that?
That's hard to explain because a lot of things I don't understand are explanation of certain things. Like, if I could explain what I am missing, I would probably be able to understand what I am missing to figure it out, to fix it, and not be in this situation. So some of that's even unknown to me. So I just go as I can and figure it out as I go, and it's not really the easiest thing to figure out. Some things are right in front of my face and I just don't see them.
Curious about that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, sounds like it. Well, you mentioned before, like when you got out of high school, you were homeless for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen, and why did that happen?
Because I wouldn't do what my grandparents wanted. I wouldn't fall into their racist line of life. I wouldn't do what they wanted to be. I didn't turn out what they wanted me to be like. I just despised it. And if I didn't do what they say it was our way or the highway, I'm like, well, fuck you then. I'm taking the highway.
Gotcha. And did you like have friends, couch surf for a little bit, or just
There was a couple friends I had, but I didn't really see eye to eye with them. Because they were the kind of people who didn't see their relationships as loyalty or being not just loyal, but being somebody who was determined to keep the truth going. They were the kind of people who would do shady things behind their girlfriend's back. And when they did stuff like that, I didn't want to be around them anymore. Because they're doing something like that to somebody, belittling them behind their back. They be basically responsible for the heartache. I don't want to be friends with somebody like that. Because they're creating monsters.
So you just hit the streets?
Yeah.
And this is in Puyallup?
This was in Spanaway at the time.
Spanaway, gotcha. So when you moved up here, what types of jobs were you doing?
Well, I started off as management in an automotive trade. I knew some people worked with Grease Monkey, and I worked with corporate setup with them, and just worked Ballard, Federal Way, Auburn, Spanaway, the whole western region. Worked with Jiffy Lube, same thing, management. I mean, I basically nailed it every job I had when it came to that kind of thing. But then I left my automotive trade, wanted to learn something new, and I became a mover. Worked for Eco Movers, then Hanson Brothers Moving and Storage. Didn't really care for that too much. Didn't like being in people's houses.
Gotcha. And this time you were living in an apartment?
I had a van I lived in.
Okay, gotcha.
And that kind of lifestyle I liked it the most. Because I could lock up my van, keep my stuff safe, but anywhere I go, I'm home. If I didn't like where I'm at, and I didn't like my neighbors, well, I'll just park somewhere else. Now I got new neighbors. And it was nice. Always kept to myself. Always left the impression that nobody was in the vehicle, so that way I didn't have to be harassed or anything. But it's amazing the things you hear about people around you too. The things you see, the things you learn from this. Especially when it's an undesirable neighborhood you're in, people breaking into cars, you see these things. Now you're the key ingredient to helping people figure out the problem and fixing it too. So you kind of become a hero in a way.
Gotcha. What were some of the favorite places that you hung out?
Gilman's Playground in Ballard. They call it Golden Gardens as well in Ballard. It's basically Shoshone Bay. I liked it there. Mainly I like Ballard. It's my first area I came to when I came to Seattle.
Yeah, me too, man.
And I don't leave it. Even though there's nothing right here for me right now, it kind of sucks, but I won't leave Ballard. It's kind of like my sanctuary. Kind of like what Sean Connery in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And when he was in Kenya, nothing can harm him, nothing can do anything to defeat him, because that was his sanctuary city, that was his safe haven. And that's what this is for me.
Nice. I love that. Hi there.
That must be fun.
All right. Thanks. All right. Well, what happened to the van?
I met somebody that I thought was ooh and ah. She was my everything, but she had a nasty demeanor in her mind. 2.5 years I took care of somebody and it bit me in the ass. I never thought doing some good for somebody was going to turn out for the worst. She caused me to lose my job at Doug's Linwood Mazda. After that, she started more trouble for me at her housing where she was at. Got booted from there. The van got towed because I couldn't afford to make the payments on it. There was one ripple effect after another.
Yeah.
And it's just been haunting to me like a bad nightmare. Like, is just the reward for being good to someone. And it still haunts me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've all been in those, what we call toxic relationships, where it's just, unfortunately, something's got to give in those relationships. So once you lose your van, that's it. And you're back on the streets again after that.
Everything I worked for to never have to go back to this, and I lost it all. And I have to do it again.
Yeah.
And I don't know how.
Because it was in that van.
That was my life investment. That was everything.
How long ago was this?
About 2 years now.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
And because of that, 2 years I've been in the weather conditions, been hungry all the time, going without the proper clothing and stuff, without the proper bathing. I hate it so much.
Yeah, because if you had the van, you could store that winter clothes there, lock the door.
Still travel for finding jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd stay useful to society. I'd still do my thing. But all that's just gone now.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the Commons. I've seen you there. What is that place?
Somebody told me about the Commons a while back, and they talked about what a joke it was. And when I got there, I realized this place isn't a joke. Because for some of us, if it wasn't for the Commons, we wouldn't have anywhere. We wouldn't have resources. We would be done already. I would have been done already. I'd probably be dead somewhere in somebody's flower bed. I don't know. But the Commons definitely, a lot of people don't see it, or they don't pay attention, or they just don't know to look. But the Commons is a resource that nobody understands. It's a blessing in disguise. People look at it as a shithole filled with drug addict, homeless people, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's a key ingredient to how a lot of us are surviving. If we were to lose the Commons, we would lose ourselves. We would lose everything.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the term that comes to mind is like anchor. I guess like an anchor for a lot of people. Charlie, a question I'd like to ask is there anything that you would want the people of Seattle to know?
I figured I was going to go homeless for the last time, and I didn't want to die in Tacoma. I figured I'd go to Seattle. Let's go there and die. And I'm still here.
Yeah.
Thanks to Seattle and the people of Seattle. Yeah, there's a lot of people who have some attitude, but you know what? I'd rather have that attitude up to my face than behind my back. But at least the people here got the gall to have an attitude and tell you what's what. At least they got the gall to give you an opportunity to make it, because that's what happened for me. I made it this far still.
Yeah.
And I don't plan on being on the street forever, because this is not a lifestyle for me. I don't know how some of them are content with it or how they like it, but I don't. I want to be one of those people who wears a uniform for a job again and gets back to working like I used to. And hopefully someday that happens again. But that will be again in Seattle, only because there's nowhere else. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I don't want to be in my hometown anymore. I'm here in the Emerald City for a lot of reasons. One of the main reasons is we just kick ass. I mean, it's Seattle. There is nothing like Seattle.
Yeah, I agree. All right, man. Good to hear your voice. It's good to meet you. Thanks for sharing part of your story.
Good to have you bring me to this.
Yeah, man. Anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody of Seattle and the Commons. Because without that, it's just another shitty Tacoma.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like we're all in this ecosystem, Ballard, together. And like what we do matters. And it's just like we're part of the same community, like you and I are. It's like I see people at Fred Meyer and just around all the time. I'm like, hey, what's up? And like we got to make this work.
Yeah.
It's
people got to work together a lot better than they are.
Yeah, man.
Because even though they act like there's nothing between them, there's like a division. That people always compete with each other, try to push someone down to bring themselves up, and we've got to not do that.
No.
Because when we work together, you could be amazed with what we accomplish.
Totally agree.
People think they accomplish good things now. They have no clue what they could accomplish if they actually work together.
Yeah, you can do a lot.
Put their differences aside, they realize that their enemy is actually going to be their friend.
Yeah.
And how much we all need each other.
Yeah.
But until then, there's that division.
Yeah.
People got to learn to see that division.
Yeah.
Because eventually that vision is going to win.
Yeah.
If they don't put their heads together.
I hope not. I mean, part of the reason I do this is to bridge that gap. Just for someone who is maybe on the fence to go, oh, maybe I was thinking a little bit, I shouldn't thinking about it a little bit differently now, or something like that, you know?
Well, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing because nobody else is.
Yeah.
And you're shining light on a subject that nobody's shining light on.
Yeah.
And it's a subject that nobody even ever talks about. And some people don't know what that subject is, but for everyone it's going to be different.
Yeah.
But it relates to the same thing. It's who are you, where are you from, what will it take to work together as a team.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it's just getting to know someone, looking in someone's eyes and being like, hey, how's it going? Tell me about yourself. It's like,
Well, if you think about Seattle Kraken, a bunch of hockey players came from different origins, different cultures.
yeah.
They were not Seattle people.
Yeah.
We built that Seattle people. Now they're working together in a team, in a town, in a place that they've never been or they haven't done. And now they've become.
Yeah.
So people can do that too.
Totally, agree. Cool, man. All right, I'm gonna grab that little mic, take a couple pictures.
All right, cool.